Okay. 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 So today I I decided to do a curse stream when I'm really tired. I got affiliate. So I decided, you know what? Let's do this. 6:59 right now for me, AM. And I am planning on playing the Sea Song until I end stream and reading an old book of mine called the My Treasury of Stories and Rhymes. It's a book that I had ever since I was a child, and it's pretty much just a bunch of fairy tales. Can't wait until the people come in. Man, stole this idea from Bean. Thanks, Bean. Love you, Bean. Yee. Yee. It was so cursed. Yee. Yee. E. 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 I can give subs on my own channel, wow. I have a new emote too. One emote, but it's cute. Heart nom. Heart nom. It's gonna turn out to just be my endurance stream and my endurance stream only. I don't know if it's loud enough for you guys, because there's nobody here right now. Let me just put it up. Yep, perfect. Yay. Dun 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 na 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 na. Yay. Ba da ba da ba ba da da ba 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 da ba da ba ba ba. Yay. Da 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 da. Yay. Ba da ba da ba 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 ba. Ba da ba da ba 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 da ba da ba ba ba. Yay. I'm tired. Guess I can check my Magma. Hi, welcome to the stream. Thank you for the follow. You joined a very cursed stream. Yo, how are you? I'm good. I'm super tired. I got like 5 hours of sleep. How are you? That was the idea. Yeah. Okay, well since someone's here, I guess I'll start. Okay, so Magma, today what we're doing is that we're gonna be reading an old nursery rhyme book I had since I was a child, while Yi is playing in the background until someone knocks on my door to stop streaming. So welcome to the stream. Thank you for being my victim. Okay. Sounds like it'll be a fun time. Of course. Of course. Any idea I have is fun. Oh gosh, my keyboard's in the way. I don't know where to put my book. It's a really big book. Okay, let's get started then. Oh no, I do in the book apparently. Let's see. Contents page. Teddy bear tales. What? Like... Wait. 10 little teddy bears, Goldilocks and 3 bears, a teddy bear who had no clothes, the big bad bear, tall tree trouble, the little lost bear, there's a bear in the room, the horrible hat, the most beautiful bear, Mr. Bear's new house. There's a lot of bear stories. The exciting life of Uncle Bobo, bears everywhere, Grandfather Bear goes fishing, Harold Herbertus Bear, the trouble with Edward, a bear at bedtime, fairy tales, Little Red Riding Hood, the Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Thumbelina, Rumpelstiltskin, Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel, Jack and the Beanstalk, the Gingerbread Man, Sleeping Beauty, the Emperor's New Clothes, the Fisherman and his wife, the Frog Prince, the Princess and the Bee, the Enormous Turnip, and Aladdin. Hi, hello. Welcome to the stream. Hi. Today is a Chris stream where he plays in the background and we're reading my old fairy tale with a rhymes book thing. Until someone knocks on the door to stop, and if we finish the book by then, I'm gonna whip out Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Animal tales and rhymes, the 3 little pigs, the hare and the tortoise, the fox and the goat, Puss in Boots, town mouse, and country mouse, Old MacDonald, the ant and the grasshopper, the little red hen, the elephant and the mouse, the wolf and the 7 little kids, the ugly duckling, the owl and the cat, the Androcles. Also, before I forget, congrats on affiliate. Thank you so much. Hi waffles. Hi waffles. Welcome. I need to hang on. I need to. There we go. Now, what was I up to? The Nightingale, Peter and the Wolf, Noah's Ark, Chicken Licken, Who Killed Robin, Present for Percy, the 3 Billy Goats Gruff, the Sly Fox and the Little Red Hen, Old Mother Goose, Cackle, Mother Goose? What the heck are these names? Little Boy Blue, Little Bo Peep, I had a little nut tree, a swarm of bees in May, all things bright and beautiful, Jack and Jill went up the hill, Mary, quite contrary, Curly Locks, Hickory Dickory Dock. Man. This story name. I'll be chilling here until it's time for me to continue to learn how to drive. Oh, I see, okay. Good luck with that, Magma. I still don't know how to drive yet, too. 6 little mice sat down to spin. Oh, the grand old Duke of York! For want of nail, the shoe was lost. The Lion and the Unicorn. Oh, I remember this one very vividly. I just remember really liking the art. Solomon Grundy. Old King Cole was a merry old soul. Georgie Porgy. What? What? Dr. Foster went to Gloucester? Is there a little match girl? I don't know. 1, 2, buckle my shoe, tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor. Where'd you go, my little pretty maid? Oranges and lemons? Does that sound like my friends? Oh man. London Bridge is falling down, little Jack Horner. Jack Sprat could not eat no fat. Yankee Doodle went to town. Little Tommy Tucker, Tom the Piper's son. The Man in the Moon, Hot Cross Buns. Oh my gosh, this is so long. How many things are in this book? Plays for Little Miss Muffet, Incy, Wincy Spider, There Was a Crooked Man, It's Raining, It's Pouring, Sing of Song of Sixpence, The Queen of Hearts, Bobby Shafter's Gone to Sea, I Saw a Ship A-Sailing, Cecil, Marguerite Doll, Humpty Dumpty Sat on the Wall, Here We Go Around the Mulberry Bush, Ring a Roses, to market to buy a fat pig, man. This little piggy went to market. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. Girls and boys come out to play. Old Mother Hubbard. Mary had a little lamb. Baba Black Sheep. The north wind doth blow. A wise old owl lived in an oak. Polly put on the kettle. Polly put the kettle on. I can't read. Pat a cake, baker's man. Simple Simon met a pieman. Pieman? Oh dear, what can the matter be? As I was going to St. Ives, half a pound of tuppenny rice, ride a horse to Banbury Cross. I had a little pony. How many miles to Babylon? Jack be nimble, higgledy piggledy, my black hen, goosey gander? Cock-a-doodle-doo! I can't say this one. I just gotta change the name to I Love Little Cat. Hey diddle diddle, ding dong bell, cat, where have you been? Little Tommy Tittlemouse. Lucy Locket lost her pocket, little Polly. My Google said all. The Peter Pumpkin Eater, Lavender's Blue Dilly Dilly, Rubbit Dub Dub, Three Wise Men of Gotham, Dance to Your Daddy. What is that name? Monday's child is fair of face, pretty maid. A cat came fiddling out of a barn. Three little kittens, they lost their mittens. I see the moon, starlight, star bright. Wee Willie Winkle runs throughout the town. Good night. Hush-a-bye baby on the treetop, diddle diddle dumpling. My son John, hush little baby, don't say a word. There's no match girl. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's a match girl. Okay. Oh, we're starting with the teddy bear stories. Alright. Wish me luck in reading all this. It's okay. I can find the story of the match girl online and read it for you after. Oh, my throat's gonna die after this. I have to go somewhere today. 10 little teddy bears. 10 little teddy bears sitting in a line. One chased a butterfly, and then there were 9. 9 little teddy bears sitting on a grape. One fell off, and then there were 8. Oh, 8 little teddy bears keeping cool as heaven. One lost his rubber ring, and then there were 7. 7 little teddy bears building with some bricks. One got the hiccups, and then there were 6. 6 little teddy bears finding a beehive. One had his nose stung, and then there were 5. Oh no. 5 little teddy bears knocking on the door. One forgot his present, so then there were 4. 4 little teddy bears playing by the sea. One met a giant crab, and then there were 3. 3 little teddy bears wondering what to do. One fell asleep, and then there were 2. What am I reading? 2 little teddy bears having lots of fun. One went to find a bun, so then there was 1. 1 little teddy bear sitting in the sun went to find his daddy, and then there were none. Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Oh no. Once upon a time, there was a very naughty little girl called Goldilocks. One day, when her mother called her to help with the washing up, she pretended not to hear and went off into the woods for a walk instead. That was the kind of thing Goldilocks did quite often. The day she took a new path and found herself walking past... Oh my god. I'm sorry, my throat... I don't know if you can hear it, but my throat's dying. And I don't know why. Let me chug some water. Oh, wait, we're up to... Goldilocks did quite often. That day she took a new path and found herself walking past a dear little cottage. The door of the cottage was slightly open, and naughty Goldilocks simply couldn't resist. The little girl pushed open the door, and she... and in she went. I can't read. What is reading? Can you eat it? Let's see. The cottage was quaint and pretty on the inside as it was on the outside. Goldilocks went into the kitchen and was very pleased to see 3 bowls of porridge on the table. She was feeling a bit hungry after a walk. She dipped her spoon in the biggest bowl and tasted the porridge. "Ugh," she said, "that's far too hot." And I'm afraid she spat the porridge out again. Then she tried the middle-sized bowl. "Ugh," she cried, "that's far too cold." You can guess what she did next. Reading is a myth, I heard growing up. Yeah, reading's a myth. There's no such thing as reading. I just realized I need to put on some tags. I forgot to change the tags of this video. Let me just change the tags quickly. Okay, let's continue. Sorry, here it's 5 a.m. so look. Dusty, go back to sleep. Thank you for joining, but go back to sleep. Oh my god, I'm so loud. Oops, let me just turn that down a bit. Dusty, you're going to sleep. Stop staying here. I just woke up, but you shouldn't be awake right now. So early. Wait, where was I? Okay, finally Goldilocks tried the smallest bowl. She didn't say anything at all because she was too busy eating. The porridge was just right. When she had finished, Goldilocks looked for somewhere to sit down. Let's see. I can't read. In the living room, there were 3 chairs. Goldilocks sat in the big one first, but she got up at once. That chair is far too hard, she grumbled. Then the little girl sat down in the middle-sized chair, but she didn't like that one either. The chair is far too soft, she complained. At last, Goldilocks sat down in the little chair. It fit her perfectly, but oh dear! With a creak and a crack, Goldilocks landed, bump on the floor. She was too heavy and the chair had broken into pieces. Goldilocks felt sore in 1 or 2 places. Okay. Okay. I need to rest, muttered Goldilocks, and she climbed up the stairs into a big bedroom at the top of the house. There she saw 3 beds, each with a warm quilt. Goldilocks climbed onto the largest bed and began jumping up and down. "This will never do. A bed that is too hard to jump on is too hard to sleep on," she said. Next, she tried the middle-sized bed and curled up in the middle of it, but Goldilocks wasn't comfortable. "It's too soft," she said. "I might sink into it and never be seen again." What kind of excuse is that? What the heck is that supposed to mean? Last of all, Goldilocks tried the smallest bed. It was perfect! Before she could think of anything to complain about, Goldilocks was fast asleep. Well, make sure you drink water in between stories. I don't want your throat to be sore after this stream. Thank you. I'll be sure to drink. I'll drink lots. I promise. I'll drink lots. I also have redeems if I forget, so thank you for reminding me. Let's see. Now the 3 bears who lived in the cottage had just gone out for a short walk before breakfast. As Goldilocks slept upstairs, they came back into the kitchen, and at once they saw that something was wrong. "Who's been eating my porridge?" asked Father Bear in a growly voice. "Who's been eating my porridge?" asked Mother Bear in a soft voice. "And who's been eating my porridge?" squeaked Baby Bear. "They've eaten it all up." Yes. Do-cha. Do-chan, hello. Hi, Do-chan. Do-chan, do you know something funny? I'm affiliate, but I still haven't put in Nightbot. Do-chan. I need to do that. Look, it's so hard. How do we add Nightbot in the first place? Let's see. Okay, continue reading. Anxiously, the 3 bears went into the living room. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," roared Father Bear in a growly voice. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," cried Mother Bear in a soft voice. "And someone's been sitting in my chair and they've broken it to bits." Swamped baby bear. I'll help you if you don't die from the vaccine. If I don't, don't tell. Congrats on the vaccine. And thank you. Thank you for helping me. Why are you awake? I thought you usually asleep by now. I haven't slept. Do-chan, go to sleep. Do-chan. Do-chan. Do-chan, go to sleep. Do-chan. I'm fine for you, isn't it? Go to sleep. Thank you for joining my stream. Go to sleep. What do you mean, what? Do-chan, I love you, but go to sleep. I don't see the problem. Alright, you wake up at like 2 p.m. But it's a Sunday morning. That's true. Yes. Okay, I'll let you off this once. Oh shoot, I hit the table with my knee. Ow. I have vaccine shopping probably in less than 5 hours. Go to sleep. It'll be fine. What do you mean it'll be fine? My VTuber model's left eye is the right eye? Left eye. Its left eye is twitching. Hold on. I need to change the calibration for that. Hold on. Okay. What do you mean it'll be fine? It's not fine! I'm so tired. Yeah, I'm just rubbing my eyes. Sorry, I shouldn't. Yes, I guess. Welcome to the stream. Yee. So free? No, you. You're really. You have a heart now. So free? What? No. I'm not pretty. I'm not pretty. You are. You're pretty. Man. I should be reading. Oh my god. My heart. No. Kiss. I love you. You're pretty. I love you. I love your character. You're really pretty. Reading. I need to read. What is reading? Who is reading? Follow me, said Father Bear sternly, and he tiptoed up the stairs. Just as I thought, he said, someone's been bouncing on my bed. Kiss, big sister. Kiss. Kiss, Oneta. Man, let me just drink some water. My hair is dying. She wants to be your older sister is what she's implying. I mean, Kiss could be my older sister. I wouldn't mind that. Let me just... Kiss, Oneta. Anyways. The understone activated. The best kind of onesan. Let's see. I heard a siren earlier. Oh no, don't stay safe. Just as I thought, you said someone's been bouncing on my bed. And someone's been curling on my bed, said Mother Bear. And someone's been sleeping in my bed, squeaked Baby Bear. And they're still there, look! At that moment, Goldilocks woke up. She saw 3 angry faces looking down at her, and she jumped out of bed. She ran out of the room and down the stairs, and out of the door and into the woods before you could say, "Who's that?" Of course, Goldilocks was careful never to go near the bear's house again. Some people say that she was a good little girl after that, but I'm not so very sure about that. Are you, man? This is quite the fairy tale. Oh yeah, this is some more people. Today, I'm playing Yi in the background while I'm slowly losing my mind and reading an old, really quite thick book of fairy tales that I found randomly. Yi. Cherry. Fui. Fui. Cherry. Cherry. That's right, I'm Cherry now. The teddy bear who had no clothes. Teddy Thompson gave a happy little growl. The girl who was hugging him so tightly was going to be a very good person to live with. He hadn't very much liked being wrapped up in a birthday paper and waiting for her to let him out. But now it had all been worth it. Little Katya wouldn't let go of him, even when it was time for her bath. But Thompson's fur will get wet, said her mother. You can't take him to bed with wet fur. Let me put him here on the laundry basket until you're ready for bed. Later, Teddy Thompson fell asleep at the end of Katya's little bed. A very happy teddy bear indeed. But the next morning, when Katya went to school, she had to leave Thompson behind. At first, he was looking forward to meeting the other toys, but no sooner had Katya gone downstairs when he heard them begin to giggle. I can hardly look, it's embarrassing, said the ragdoll. It shouldn't be allowed, giggled the baby doll, pointed at Teddy Thompson. At least, I have paint, puffed the big blue train, blowing his whistle. I feel sorry for him, really, said the clown. Man, clowns are so rude. Teddy Thompson couldn't think what they were talking about. He petted his fur and made sure his paws were clean. At least he couldn't stand anymore. Excuse me, he rumbled. What's the matter with me? My dear, surely you know, gasped the ragdoll. You haven't any clothes on. He's naked. You're a bear, chortled the train. All the toys have their own clothes or bright paint like me. We can't play with you if you don't wear something. Nikki. I'm so losing my. I need water. I need to chug this water. Okay. Yee. Suddenly, Teddy Thompson felt really silly. None of the bears in the toy shop had worn clothes, but now that the toys came to mention it, it did seem a bit odd to be bear. But I haven't got any clothes, he said, and I don't know what teddy bears like me are supposed to wear. I sleep now? Okay. Good night. Good night, Tota. And have nice dreams. Good night. Scam. No night boat. No night boat. Comment. I'll add it later. Yeah. Tota, love you. Good night. Let's see. Where am I up to? I'm so bad at reading, this is why. The toys didn't want to be unkind, so they tried to find something for him to wear. Just to start, they said, until Katya gives you some clothes, the ragdoll hunted in the toy box. Here's my best dress, she said. The one I wear for parties. You can wear it instead. Oh. So Thompson put on the dress, which really fit him quite well. But when he looked at the mirror... Oh. Hiccup. But when he looked at the mirror, he could hardly recognize himself among the pink frills and ribbons. "Nothing in this world will make me wear this," he said firmly. "If there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that bears don't wear dresses. I mean, maybe some do." And took off the Rags doll's best party dress and sat down in the corner. "I got a spare clown suit," said the clown helpfully, "and a slightly squashed red nose. You can't wear a clown suit without a red nose." So Teddy Thompson put on the suit and the nose and went to the mirror again. "This is even worse," he cried. "I look ridiculous. You don't see bears with red noses." And he pulled off the suit and the nose and went back to his corner, rubbing his sore nose. I've got something that suits... Oh, I have a sneeze. I have a sneeze coming up. Sorry. I've got something that suits everyone," giggled the baby doll, handing Teddy Thompson a square of white material. "Not in a million years," growled Thompson. "I'm a grown-up bear, for goodness sake." "Then there's only one thing left," chugged the train. "We must paint you." And he chuffed off to find Katya's finger paints. Uh-oh. Half an hour later, a rainbow bear sat sadly in front of the mirror. The toys all told him that he looked much better, but he really wasn't sure. "I just hope Katya likes it," he thought, "because I'm not sure it will ever come off." When Katya saw Teddy Thompson, she burst into tears right away. "What's happened to your beautiful golden fur?" she sobbed. Katya's mother dried her tears and looked thoughtfully at Teddy Thompson. "I think it's time he did have a bath," she said. So Katya bathed her teddy bear in soapy water, and her mother took him outside to dry. As he slowly dried in the sun, Teddy Thompson made some very important decisions. Number 1, he said to himself, "It is not dignified for a bear to hang on a washing line by his ears. This is not going to happen ever again. Number 2, I have beautiful golden fur. Katya said so. I'm not going to hide it with silly clothes, and I'm going to tell those toys. A bear isn't bear if he's wearing his fur. He's not at his best in a clown suit or a dress. Being covered in paint, I'm bound to declare it, was simply not me. I just couldn't bear it, spelled with B-E-A-R. Ah, yes, puns. Thank you for the puns book." And the next story is The Big Bad Bear. Man, they really like bears. "You can play wherever you like in the woods," said Mrs. Bear to her twins. But whatever you do, don't disturb the big bad bear." So Lily and Buttons went off into the woods, and at first they were just a little bit frightened. They tiptoed very quietly through the trees. Was that grumbling, growly sound in the distance? Was that a snoring sound nearby? Oh my god, hang on. Yee, okay. "What is the big bad bear like?" whispered Buttons to his sister. "Well, he's big, and he's bad, and he's a kind of bear," said Lily slowly. "And I think I see him over there. Run!" But when they had finished running, she thought that perhaps she had only seen a bear-shaped bush after all. Man. The two little bears stood still and listened. Was that chewing, chomping noise they heard, Was that a chewing and chomping noise they heard? What do big bad bears eat?" asked Lily quietly. "Oh, berries and nuts and insects and little bears," said Buttons. "Does Caesar dehydrate?" "Thank you, Dusty." Thank you for the hydrate. And I think I can hear him coming. Run!" But when they had finished running, he thought that perhaps it had only been the wind and the branches he heard after all. The little bears tried to play a game, but it was hard to concentrate. Was that a bear's foot poking out from behind a tree? Was that a bear's furry face watching between the leaves? I can't read. What is reading? Who is reading? What does a big bad bear look like? Asked Buttons, looking around rather nervously. He is very, very tall, and he has very, very big teeth, and he has very, very long claws, said Lily. And I think I see him behind that tree. Run! But when they had finished running, she had thought perhaps it was only a bird's nest in the branches after all. You're reading very well already, am I though? Reading is hard. Lily and Buttons thought about playing hide and seek, but that would have been being alone. They thought about singing songs, but you know who might hear. But you know who might hear. They wondered if they should start a leaf collection, but if you bend over to pick up a leaf, you might just not see something that's big and bad and bear-like creeping up behind. So, the bird was squawking. It is very hard. Reading is really hard. So in the end, they wandered around and didn't do very much at all. All of a sudden, Buttons had a very scary thought. He remembered something that he'd heard someone say in a movie once. It seemed horribly true. Lily, said Buttons, I don't like it. It's too quiet out there. Lily listened. The birds weren't singing, the leaves weren't rustling, there were no scampering, scuttling noises at all. I don't like it either, she said. And I think I can see someone coming this way. Run! The two little bears ran until they were gasping for breath and could hardly see where they were going. Then crash! They fell over something lying on the ground and landed in a heap under a tree. Oh! Lily peeped out from behind her paws and screamed, "Ah!" Wait, was that loud? And the big bad bear looked at them both and shouted, "Ah!" Then they all looked at each other in surprise. You're not very big, and you don't look very bad, said Lily to the big bad bear. I'm not, said Little Bear indignantly. That's just my name. Then it's a very silly name, said Lily. Names should be just like the bears they belong to. The big bad bear gave a big smile. You're right, he said. Let's play, but first tell me what your names are. Imagine naming your child Big Bad Bear. Okay, next story. I need to drink water. I should also go to the points. Points, there we go. Okay. Okay. Everything's hard. Why am I doing this? Why did I decide to read books? Untold tree trouble. There's one very important thing to remember if you're going to climb a tree. If you have to be able to get down again. It's a pity that Teddy Bellingham didn't think of that before he set out. He set out one morning to climb the tallest tree in the garden. I sometimes think, said Teddy Bellingham, just calling him Bill, to himself as he clambered up onto the lowest branch, that people think that bears aren't very adventurous. It's time that a brave, strong bear like me showed them how wrong they are. So Teddy Bellingham... I don't like reading anymore. So Teddy Bell climbed a little bit further. It was harder than he had thought it would be, as he looked at the tree from the bedroom window. For one thing, the branches didn't seem to be didn't seem to be quite in the right places. This is a badly designed tree from a climbing point of view, said Teddy Bellingham to himself as he struggled to reach the next branch. Ah yes, this tree is very badly designed. After a few more branches, tired Teddy Bellingham decided that it was time to have an official rest. In fact, he had already had a few unofficial rests, but they didn't really count. He sat on a branch and swung his legs and looked down at the garden. It was a mistake. When the little bear looked down, he really couldn't help noticing what a very long way from the ground he was. A brave, strong bear who fell off a branch as high as this might hit the ground with a very nasty bump indeed, thought the brave, strong bear in the tree. Then Teddy Bellingham remembered that climbers always try to look up instead of down. He had on tight to the He held on tight to the trunk and screwed his eyes there. Screwed up his eyes. I, I can't wait. Let's see. And there was still a lot of trees above him. Thank you for the hydrate again, Dusty. Okay. Okay, back to eating. He held on tight to the trunk and screwed up his eyes. There was still a lot of tree above him, but for the first time, Teddy Bellingham wondered if he should have a little more training for his important tree climb. But he really was a brave bear, and he carefully began to step onto the next branch. And I don't know what reading is. Teddy Bellingham climbed slowly and steadily. I'm beginning to get into my stride, he said to himself. This isn't so difficult after all, but the branches seem closer together up here. Oh man, there's a big illustration here. You can't see it, but there's a big illustration here. It wasn't until his next official rest that Teddy Bellingham noticed that the tree was moving. And the wind was stronger now, and the tree was swaying gently from side to side. Oh, moaned Teddy Bellingham, holding on very tightly now. I'm beginning to feel just a little bit queasy. He shut his eyes, but that just made him feel worse. Even a brave, strong bear can be ill, he thought. It wouldn't be wise to go on. I shall climb down carefully and make another attempt tomorrow. And this was when Teddy Bellingham's trouble really began. He found that it's very hard to climb down without looking down, and the branches seemed a lot further apart now. He managed a few branches, but then he had to admit, he was well and truly stuck. Teddy Bellingham sat on his branch for a long time. A cold, worried feeling seemed to grow in his tummy. No one knows I'm here, he thought. I could stay here for days and days, or weeks and weeks, or months and months, or years and years. My fur will get wet and my stuffing will fall out. And the birds will make nests out of me. Oh dear. It's kinda... But what Teddy Bellingham hadn't noticed was that the branch he was sitting on grew straight towards the house. In fact, its leaves brushed the bedroom window where he often sat. Ah, lucky. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for the hydrate. I'm gonna refill my water soon. Where am I up to? It wasn't until the sun began began to go down, someone put the light on in the bedroom at the end of the branch, that Teddy Bellingham realized there was a way to escape. I will need to be a braver, stronger bear than I ever have been, he said, but I think I could just reach the bedroom window. Mine and Mark? Yeah, okay. Is it worthy? Oh no. So Teddy Bellingham crawled along the branch. I can't read. At first it was wide and easy to hold on to, but soon it became narrower. The little bear found that it was safer to wriggle along on his bottom, and the nearer he came to the window, the braver he felt. At least he could reach out his paw and just touch the window, but it was shut. Teddy Bellingham groaned, but adventurous bears don't give up just like that. He broke off a twig and used it to tap on the window. And through the glass, he heard the little boy he lived with, talking to someone inside. Just listen to that tree tapping on the window, he said. It's spooky. It's not spooky, it's me, thought Teddy Bellingham. How can I show that I'm not a tree? How can I show that I'm not a tree? I never thought I'd ever read that sentence in my life. It was then that Teddy Bellingham had a really good idea. Instead of just tapping with his twig, he made a pattern of the noises. Dot 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 da 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 dot 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 da 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 dot 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 da da da. He tapped. In no time at all, the little boy had opened the window and rescued his teddy bear. Of course, I could go back and finish the climbing that tree today, said Teddy Bellingham to himself, the next morning as he sat comfortably by the window. But it might become boring if I do it too often. I just realized it looks like I'm closing my eyes whenever I'm reading because I'm facing down at the book. Okay, water time. Sorry, that was loud. And the Little Lost Bear is the next one. There's so many bear ones. How many are there left? There is a lot of bear ones left. Once upon a time, there was a little teddy bear who kept getting lost. Actually, I'm gonna bookmark it here, and we're gonna move on to the fairy tales for now because I feel like we read too many bear stories. I'll continue later though. If I can find the pages. Like there's so many bear ones. Like there's so many bear ones. Okay, fairy tales. There we go. Gotta read some classics. Little Red Riding Hood. Let's go. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived on the edge of the woods. The thing she liked best in all the world was a red cloak with a hood that her granny had given her. In fact, she liked it so much that she wore it nearly all the time. Because of this, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother sighed. She's not feeling very well, but I just haven't had time to go see her today. I could go, said Little Red Riding Hood. Well, replied her mother, I suppose you are quite a big girl now. I'll pack a basket of nice things for Granny, and you can take it to her, but you must promise me not to wander off the path and not to talk to anyone on the way. Of course not, said Little Red Riding Hood. Huh. So Little Red Riding Hood set off for her granny's cottage on the other side of the woods. Her mother waved her until she was out of sight among the trees. It was a lovely day. The birds sang and little woodland animals peeped out to see Little Red Riding Hood go by. I feel like the geese making me lose my mind. Soon she saw something lovely, flowers growing beneath the trees. These would make a wonderful present for Granny, she said to herself. As she stopped to pick some, she forgot that her mother told her not to wander off the path at all. Just as Little Red Riding Hood had finished picking a big bunch of flowers, a wolf stepped out of behind a tree. Good afternoon, my dear. Creepy. What a charming bunch of flowers. I'm sorry, said Little Red Riding Hood firmly, but I'm not allowed to talk to strangers. I'm on my way to see my granny and I mustn't be late. She walked quickly down the path. Ah, yes, telling them exactly where you're going. The wolf watched her go with a smile on his long gray face. Perhaps we shall meet again, he called. Then he ran off into the trees, following a secret shortcut that only wolves know. Half an hour later, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at her granny's cottage. That's strange, she thought. Granny has left her door open. Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the open door and walked in. It was quite dark inside the cottage, and Little Red Riding Hood wondered whether Granny was asleep. So she tiptoed quietly over to the bed. Granny was wide awake and sitting up, but she really didn't look very well at all. She was wearing a nightcap that didn't seem quite big enough. Why, Granny, whispered Little Red Riding Hood, what big ears you have! The better to hear you with, my dear, said Granny in a strange voice. Little Red Riding Hood looked a little closer. Why, Granny, she cried in surprise, what big eyes you have! The better to see you with, my dear, said Granny, pulling the covers up a little higher. But Little Red Riding Hood had seen something very odd indeed. Why, Granny, she gasped, what big teeth you have! The better to eat you with, shouted the wolf, leaping out of the bed and throwing off Granny's nightcap. Little Red Riding Hood screamed at the top of her voice and ran to the door. Luckily, a woodsman who was working nearby heard the scream and hurried in with an axe. The wolf was so frightened that he ran off into the trees. We won't be seeing him around here for a long time. For a long time. For a long while, said the woodman. Where's Granny? Cried Little Red Riding Hood. Just then came a strange thumping from the cupboard. The woodman opened the door, and out fell Granny. In the original Little Red Riding Hood, didn't the woodsman chop the wolf's tail or something off? There's nothing like a good fright to cure a cold, she said cheerfully. Now sit down, both of you, and I'll put the kettle on. So the woodsman doesn't kill the wolf. Yeah, not in this version apparently. Which is funny because in the Little Mermaid it does have the original of she doesn't actually have a happy ending. That's weird. I need to refill my water later. What time is it? It's almost 8 p.m. for 8 a.m. for me, I mean, oops. The Little Mermaid is next. Long ago and far away, the king of the mer people ruled all the lands under the sea. He lived in a palace made of shells and precious pearls with his 6 peaceful mermaid daughters. All day long, the mermaids played in the clear blue water, but they were not allowed to rise to the surface and look at the world where humans being lived. Human beings live. There we go. The story said that they have strange legs instead of tails, said the oldest princess. Yes, and they live on land, not the sea, said another. I wish I could see the lands they lived on, sighed the youngest princess. Heidi! No, that's fine, I just had a little hiccup. I need to hydrate. I wish I could see the lands they lived, sighed the youngest princess. You're much too young, all of you, said their grandmother. But I will tell you strange tales of the world to human beings, if you are very good. So every night, when the blue of the sea became dark, and still the princesses listened to her stories, the youngest mermaid longed to be old enough to see for herself. Imagine wanting to grow up. As the years passed, the princess grew up and were allowed to take their first look at the outside world. They came back with tales of great cities full of lights and of strange woodland vessels that carried people across the sea. At last it was the turn of the youngest princess. Trembling with excitement, she swam to the surface and gazed at the sunlit world. In the distance, one of the wooden ships that her sisters had described was one of the... what's reading? Who's reading? The Little Mermaid swam up her, the Little Mermaid swam up to it and saw a handsome young man laughing with his friends on a deck. Then the sky grew dark, and a great storm blew up. The ship was battered by the waves and driven upon rocks near the shore. The young man was thrown into the water, and the Little Mermaid knew that he would drown if he did not, if she did not help him. Cradling him in her arms, she brought him safely to shore, leaving him on a sandy beach. I'm just looking at the art for a minute, because the art's interesting. I used to like this art, but now I'm looking at it and thinking, yeah, but anime. The Little Mermaid waited not far from the shore to see what would happen. Soon some girls came along to the beach and found the young man. It's the prince, they cried. Slowly the prince opened his eyes. Where is the one beautiful girl who saved me, he asked, but no one could tell him. No one could tell him because she's a mermaid, no one saw her. Let's see. The Little Mermaid swam sadly away, but no matter what she did, she could not forget the prince, for she had fallen in love with him, just like that. Jeez. Imagine falling in love with someone so quickly. At least she could bear it no longer. I shall visit the sea witch and ask for her help, she said. Deep in her cave, the sea witch cackled. So you want to become human? It is quite painful, you know, to turn a mermaid's tail into legs, and I shall need a payment. What can I give you? Asked the Little Mermaid. Your voice, my pretty chuckled the witch. And shall I be truly human? No, for that you must be loved by the human man, said the witch. But if he chooses another, you will turn into sea foam before dawn. So the little mermaid gave her lovely voice to the witch and became human. She joined the crowd of courtiers who were always coming and going in the prince's palace. Before long, the prince noticed the lovely girl and wished her to always be near him. The little mermaid had only one sorrow. Without her voice, she could not tell the prince who she was. Although the prince was fond of the little mermaid, his heart was full of the girl who had saved him from drowning. He did not know that she was already by his side. Oh man. One day he told the little mermaid, I'm going to a far country where there lives a beautiful princess. Perhaps I shall marry her. The little mermaid thought that her heart would break. When the prince met the lovely princess, he was dazzled by her beauty. You must be the girl that saved me, he cried, and arrangements were made for the wedding to take place the next day. Ah, yes. Misunderstandings. The little mermaid knew that when the sun rose in the morning, she would turn into foam. Does the mermaid not know how to write? That evening, she leaned over the rail of the ship, and her tears dropped like pearls into the sea. Suddenly, she saw her sister swimming beneath. You can save yourself, they cried. You must kill the prince with this knife, and you will be free. I guess not. Yeah, I guess not. The little mermaid took the knife and crept to the prince's cabin, but as soon as she looked down at his sleeping face, she knew she loved him too much to harm him. Yet when she threw herself into the sea, the little mermaid was not turned into foam. Instead, she became a daughter of the air, helping those who are unhappy. The next day, when the royal ship sailed with the prince and his bride on board, the little mermaid looked down on them and was able to smile at last. The end. Pens don't really work underwater? That's true. But I thought maybe if she was living with the prince for a while that she'd at least learn something. Maybe not. Ah, next is Cinderella. Is this the Cinderella where they chop off their legs or? Nah, it's not. Okay. I kind of wanted to read the gory Cinderella more, but that's fine. This is fine too. I need to go refill my water. I will be right back. Yee. I'm back. It's already been an hour, jeez. Alright, Cinderella. Where's that girl? My hair needs brushing. The fire's going out. Come here, lazy bones. All day long, Cinderella's sister yelled and scolded from dawn to dusk. She cleaned the house, fetched and carried, tended the fires, and did the cooking. While her sisters lived a life of ease, Cinderella's clothes were dirty and torn. She had no fine jewels or pretty shoes, but she was far more beautiful than her two ugly sisters. Man. Of course, this made them dislike her even more. One day, there was great excitement in the town. A messenger from the palace went door from door, inviting all the young ladies from near and far to a ball to celebrate the prince's birthday. It's time he was married, cried one ugly sister. Perhaps he will choose a bride at the balls. Cinderella, alter my new ball gown. It has shrunk. You may be right, said the other sister. Cinderella, clean my dancing shoes. No one thought for a moment that the invitation included Cinderella. I'm just looking at the art for a moment. Her sisters look a lot older than her. On the night of the ball, Cinderella sat exhausted in front of the dying fire. In their hurry to get ready, her sisters had have been even more unkind than usual. I can't read. I can't read. Cinderella stared into the glowing coals. I wish that I could go to the ball, she sighed. Suddenly, the fire sparkled to life, and a smiling old woman stood in the kitchen. I am your fairy godmother, Cinderella, she said, and you shall go to the ball. The fairy asked Cinderella to bring her a pumpkin. With a wave of a wand, she turned it into a beautiful golden coach with 4 handsome footmen. Now, bring me 6 mice, she cried. In a moment, the fairy turned the mice into 6 beautiful horses to pull the coach. Now you're ready for the ball, my dear, she cried. But Cinderella looked down at her ragged clothes. I can't go to the palace like this, she whispered. The fairy laughed and waved her wand for the 3rd time. In a second, Cinderella was clothed in the most beautiful satin dress she had ever seen. Rosebuds nestled in her silky hair, and on her feet were dainty glass slippers. How can I ever thank you, she asked. I can't pronounce anything, I need water. Yay! What is the time? It's 8:01, okay. Okay, so I'm looking at the eye, and the prince has white hair. He looks kind of old. Just enjoy yourself, replied the fairy. But remember, the magic only lasts until midnight. Before the clock strikes, you must hurry home. When Cinderella arrived at the ball in her golden coach, everyone in the palace wondered who the beautiful stranger could be. The prince himself led her to the ballroom, and would let no one else dance with her all evening. Floating around the room in the prince's arms, Cinderella almost cried with happiness. She'd forgotten everything but the handsome young man who smiled down at her. But as she whirled around the floor, Cinderella suddenly heard the great clock on the tower outside begin to strike. It was midnight. I'm sorry, whispered Cinderella, and she ran from the ballroom. She was just in time. As she fled across the square, her clothes began to turn to rags. By the time the bewildered prince reached the steps outside the palace, she had disappeared from sight. All that was left was... hold on, my Streamlabs froze. Can you still hear me? Thank you for the hydrate. Okay. All that was left was a single glass slipper, shining in the moonlight. At home next day, Cinderella's sisters could talk only of the girl who had stolen the prince's heart. No one else danced with him at all, they complained, and they say that he's looking for her everywhere. The sisters did not know about the glass slipper, but the next day a royal messenger arrived with an escort of soldiers. The prince has commanded that every girl in the kingdom must try on this slipper. You know, I'm just wondering, if... in reality, surely there's someone with feet that could fit in the glass slipper as well, right? He said, and the prince has vowed to marry the one whom it fits. Let me try, cried the first ugly sister. She tried with all her might to squeeze her fat foot into the slipper, but it was no use. My turn, I think, my dear, said the second ugly sister with a sneer, but her thin foot was much too long for the tiny slipper. Is there anyone else in this house? Asked the messenger. Only a maid, laughed the sisters. The slipper will never fit her. Man. But the messenger was firm. Everyone must try it on. So Cinderella was brought from the kitchen. Blushing, she put on the dainty slipper, just as the prince himself entered the house to see how the search was proceeding. It was you, he cried, looking down at Cinderella's lovely face. Please be my bride, and we shall never be parted again. Man! Imagine actually that happening. That would be kind of... I wouldn't accept that. I wouldn't accept that. It seemed as though the whole world lined the streets to cheer when Cinderella married the prince. Even the ugly sisters were happy. They had received invitations to the grand ball after the wedding, and they had heard that many visiting princes would certainly be there. That's not how the original story went. I'm pretty sure in the original story they cut off their feet and it didn't fit. And the shoe was all bloody. And because it was all bloody, Cinderella took out the other glass slipper she got and showed that it was fit. Okay, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs! Ah yes, the mirror, mirror on the wall. One winter's day, a queen sat sewing by a castle window. As she sewed, she pricked her finger, and 3 drops of blood fell on the snow by the black window frame. The slipper was sentient all along. Yeah, apparently. I wish that my daughter could have skin as white as the snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as this window frame, sighed the queen. Very soon after, the queen gave birth to a beautiful daughter, just as she had described. She named her Snow White. These people have terrible naming senses. More terrible than me. Leaving her baby, shoot. Sadly, the queen died soon after, leaving her baby to be brought up by her father, the king. Now the king had loved his wife very much, but after some years he grew lonely and decided to marry again. His bride was a very beautiful woman, but her heart was cold. Every day she looked into a magic mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would reply, "Many are lovely beyond compare, but you, O queen, are the fairest of the fair." Ha. The new queen did not like children, and made sure that she never saw Snow White. She did not know that each day the young princess grew more lovely. At last the day came when the mirror gave a new reply. "You, O queen, are lovely beyond compare, but Snow White is the fairest of the fair." I remember a Vocaloid song called... it was a Vocaloid song. Don't know what it's called. But I remember the lyrics like... Mr. Mirror, stop calling me the fairest of them all. I'm just thinking, was this what Snow White would be thinking at that time if she knew? The queen became enraged. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. Bring me back her heart, hissed the evil queen, so that I can be sure she is dead. The huntsman was not a cruel man, but he feared for his life, so he led Snow White into the thickest part of the forest. But when he looked down at her lovely face, he could not kill her. Instead, he left her there and took back an animal's heart to deceive the queen. Alone in the forest, as night began to fall, Snow White was terrified. She stumbled through the trees, not knowing which way to go. At last, she saw a little house standing in the clearing. Worn out with fear and hunger, she crept inside and fell asleep. On the first of the 7 little beds that lined the wall. I can't read. What is reading? A few hours later, Snow White awoke to find 7 little men looking down at her. At first, she was frightened, but after she had told them that her tale, the 7 dwarfs spoke kindly to her. "You poor child," said one. "Of course you can stay with us, but you must be careful, for the wicked queen may find out that you are still alive." Man, imagine people actually being this nice. Well, that was a loud sip, sorry. So Snow White looked after the dwarves and their little house. She was very happy, although she was left alone when the dwarves went off to work each morning. One day, an old woman knocked on the door. "Pretty things for a pretty girl," she called. Snow White opened the door eagerly. She was glad to have a visitor and could not tell the old woman was really the wicked queen in disguise. "Let me tie this pretty ribbon around your neck," smiled the old woman. To her horror, Snow White felt the ribbon being pulled tighter and tighter until she fell down, as though dead, man. That night, the dwarves found their friend laying where she had fallen. Tenderly, they nursed her back to life, but they spoke to her sternly. "You must never open the door to anyone again." They said, "Next time you may not be so lucky." Time passed, and all was well. But after a few months, an old woman with a basket of apples came to the door of the little house. "I won't come in, my dear," she said. "Let me pass you this special apple through the window. You've never tasted anything so sweet." This is why stranger dangers exist. Poor Snow White took just one bite of the apple. It was poisoned. When the dwarfs came home, all their loving care would not revive her. "This is the queen's work," they said angrily. The dwarves could not bear to bury Snow White, so they put her in a glass coffin in a clearing in the forest and kept watch beside her. No, wait. I just like to ask, wouldn't her body rot? One day a prince came riding by. The moment he saw Snow White, he fell in love with her. "Though she can never be my bride," he said to the dwarves, "let me take her back to my palace, to rest in the surroundings she deserves." Reluctantly, the dwarves agreed, and the prince ordered his men to pick up the coffin. But as they did so, the piece of apple that caught Snow White's throat was dislodged. To everyone's amazement, she stretched her arms and sat up. And the first person she set eyes on was a handsome young prince, smiling down at her. Of course, Snow White married her prince, and all the dwarves danced at her wedding. As for the evil queen, she was so furious that she flew away in a tantrum and was never seen again. She was dead, yes. Apparently she wasn't dead. She was apparently just choking on an apple piece. Yeah. That's how the fairy tale went. Yeah. I don't... Man. Thumbelina's next. Oh, Thumbelina's quite cute. Oh, that was loud. Yee. Yee. Where's the giant dragon? Wait, wrong one. It's technically a giant bird. How long has it been? At 1:30, I'll probably end the stream. I can't read this long. Once there was a woman who longed to have a little girl of her own. She went to a wise woman and asked for her help. "Take this seed," said the old woman kindly, "and plant it in a pot. You'll see your wish come true." The woman did as it was told. She watered the seed in its pot, and soon 2 leaves pushed their way through the soil. In a few days, a flower bud could be seen, which opened to reveal a beautiful yellow flower, and right inside the middle of the flower was a little girl, no bigger than the woman's thumb. "I will call her Thumbelina," cried the woman joyfully. Is she married, or does she just think, "I want a child one day"? Little Thumbelina was looked after very well. Her mother made her tiny little clothes and a bed from a walnut shell. Ah. But one day, as Thumbelina sat on the table singing to herself, an old Mother Toad hopped in through the window and carried Thumbelina away. "You are so beautiful," croaked the toad to the frightened little girl. "You shall be married to my son." And she left Thumbelina on a lily pad in the middle of the river. Thumbelina began to cry. She did not want to be married to an ugly toad, and lived in the mud on the riverbank. Some little fishes who were swimming past saw her tears and decided to help her. They nibbled through the stalk of the lily leaf, so that it floated off down the river. Thumbelina cheered up as she drifted along. There were flowers on the bank, and the pretty butterflies fluttered around her head. But the little girl's adventures were not over. A huge black beetle flew down and carried her off to the tall tree where his family lived. "Whatever is that?" jeered the other beetle. "It's only got 2 legs. How very ugly." So the beetle let Thumbelina go. Ah. Okay. Okay. All summer long, Thumbelina was happy once more. She made friends with the birds and the butterflies and ate berries and seeds. At night, she slept in an empty bird's nest. But when summer came to an end, her friends disappeared and food became scarce. She was too cold to sleep at night. One day, shivering and hungry, Thumbelina met a field mouse coming out of the house. "You can stay with me for a little while," said the mouse. And what a hell of a... I need to carry a big water bottle with me soon. Thumbelina liked the snug little house very much, but it was very small. "You must meet my friend, the mole," said the mouse. "He is looking for a wife and has a great big house underground." So Thumbelina went to see the mole's house. It was dark and cold as the mole led her through the narrow passages. "Be careful here," said the mole. "Something has died in my tunnel." Thumbelina bent down and felt the body of a bird. It was very cold, but its heart was still beating. "I will look after you and make you well," whispered Thumbelina. She brought the swallow food and covered him with leaves to keep him warm. Before long, he was ready to fly away. Thumbelina waved until she couldn't see him anymore. When the spring sunshine warmed the earth, Thumbelina sat sadly, looking at the blue sky. It was time for her to marry the mole, but she dreaded living underground and never seeing the sunshine or the pretty spring flowers. Suddenly, she saw a bird high above. It was a swallow that she saved. "Climb onto my back," said the swallow, "and I will take you to a faraway land where it is always warm and the flowers never die." Thumbelina clung onto the swallow's feathers. As he flew across land and sea, at last, the swallow landed in a flowery meadow. As Thumbelina looked around her, she was amazed to see that every flower had a little person sitting in it, just like her. One little man came forward, smiling. "I am the king of the flower people," he said. "Welcome to our land. We will call you Maya." Thumbelina was overjoyed to have found so many friends. She grew up to love the little king, who had greeted her and lived happily ever after among the flower people as their queen. Wait, but what about the mother? What about the mother? Wouldn't she be worried sick that her tiny daughter just went missing? Man, poor mother. Next is Rumpelstiltskin. Oh, I know this one. This is a little off topic, but there's a game that I played a very long time ago, an ultimate game called Cinderella Phenomenon. And in the game, you play as a girl who I think you get to name. But her default name was Lucina? Lucinda? Lucette. It was Lucette. Okay. And in the game, pretty much you get to... It's an ultimate game, so there's obviously boys. And each boy is related to their own fairy tale, and there was one based off Rumpelstiltskin. I hated that character. Once upon a time, there was a very silly man who had a beautiful daughter. The king heard of the lovely girl and summoned her father to the palace. Overcome by such grand surroundings, the man talked all kinds of nonsense. "Not only is my daughter beautiful," he boasted to the king, "but she can spin straw into gold." Oh no. If you hated him, just say his name. No. But that's not how it worked, and I can't say anymore because that kind of would be spoilers, I think. But pretty much, let's say, how do I say it? If you said his name, his curse would actually break. So, let's see. Okay. The king smiled, for he loved money more than anything. Bring her to the palace, he cried, and if she can do as you say, I will marry her. So the poor girl was brought to the palace and shut into a tiny room with nothing but a pile of straw and spinning wheel. You have until morning to spin that straw into gold, said the king, but if you fail, you must die. As the girl clanged shut behind her, the girl burst into tears. She hadn't the faintest idea of how to begin to spin straw into gold. Suddenly, with a puff of smoke, a strange little man appeared before her. Why all these tears, pretty one? He asked. Man. Sobbing, the girl explained her dilemma. But that's easily solved, laughed the strange little man. You give me, let's see, your gold ring, and I'll spin the straw into gold. The poor girl was only too glad to make the exchange. Long before morning, the little man had done as he had promised, and disappeared as quickly as he had came, leaving the girl alone. The king was delighted when he saw the gold thread, and at once he wanted more. We must be sure that this was not a trick, he said. Tonight you shall have even more straw to spin. That night, the strange little man appeared again. He chuckled when he saw the huge pile of straw. Child's play, he cried. But I shall need a payment, pretty one. Your glass beads, perhaps? Perhaps. I can't read. Eagerly, the girl handed over her necklace. The little man sat down at once and began to spin. By morning, he had disappeared, leaving behind several skeins of golden thread. This is splendid, said the king when he saw it. You will not object, I'm sure, to one more test. If you pass again, you shall certainly become my queen. I would have run away at this point. There's no way I'd marry someone like that. This time there was a whole room full of straw for the girl to spin. When she was left by herself, she cried so bitterly that she did not see the little man appear. What's the matter, pretty one? He asked. Surely you know that I will help you. But I have nothing left to give you, sobbed the unhappy girl. No matter, said the little man. When you are queen, you shall give me your firstborn child. That will be payment enough. Yeah, let me just... that's a very reasonable payment, I guess. No matter, said the little man. When you are queen, okay, shoot, I already. This seemed so unlikely to happen that the girl agreed at once. And the little man sat down to spin. When the king opened the door the next morning, the girl sat amid 100 skeins of thread, lit by their golden glow. The king had never seen anything so beautiful, and he ordered that their wedding should take place at once. What? A year passed, and the new queen was happier than she could ever have believed, especially when she gave birth to a lovely baby daughter. But one night, she got ready for bed. She was startled to see the strange little man standing beside the baby's cradle. It is time for you to carry out your promise, pretty one, he said. The young queen was terrified. I'll give you anything else you want, she cried. Take my jewels, take my crown. But the little man just laughed. I am not a cruel man, he said. If you can guess my name before 3 nights have passed, you will never see me again. That yellow dress does not look good on her. I mean, she promised. Yeah, she did. She really did. She should have thought about it a little more. On the next 2 nights, the queen guessed every name she could think of. She asked her soldiers to ride through the kingdom, collecting the strangest names they could find. But every name that the little man just chuckled and shook his head. On the 3rd day, a soldier came to the queen and told her a strange story. As I was riding through the forest, he said, I saw an odd little man dancing around the fire and singing. The queen will never win my game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name. I just want to know, who on earth names a child Rumpelstiltskin? That night, the little man appeared before the queen. "Is your name Hurly-Burly?" she asked. "No," cried the little man. Then is it Humplety-Bumplety?" "No, no." "Then perhaps is it Rumpelstiltskin?" At that, the little man turned red with fury. He stamped his feet so hard that he fell through the floor. That's a very unstable castle. Or a very strong little man. The young queen lived happily ever after and never strove with the strange little man again. Oh, Hansel and Gretel's next. What's the time? Little things about the name and shook someone gets the name. Yeah, literally. He should have stayed quiet. Okay, Hansel and Gretel. Everyone knows Hansel and Gretel. You know, the one where they bake the witch alive. Once upon a time, there was a poor woodcutter who had 2 children called Hansel and Gretel. The children's mother had died when they were small, and the woodcutter's new wife was not used to being so poor. After years of struggling to find enough for the family to eat, she had become hard and bitter. One evening, as the 2 hungry children tried to get to sleep, they heard their father and the stepmother talking in the next room. "We cannot afford to feed ourselves and the children," said the woman. "At this rate, we shall all starve. Tomorrow we must take the children into the forest and leave them there." How cruel. The woodcutter protested, but he could not bear to lose his wife, and in the end he agreed. Why is your wife more important than your children? The children were very frightened, but Hansel comforted his sister. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll slip out and find some white stones. If I drop them along the path, we'll be able to find our way home." The next day, Hansel did just as he said. The woodcutter and his wife left the children in the forest, promising to return. Instead, they went straight home, but Hansel and Gretel were able to find their way in the moonlight, following the white pebbles until they saw their cottage ahead. Wasn't one of them the breadcrumbs? The woodcutter was overjoyed to see them, but his wife set her mouth in a hard line and looked away. A week later, she persuaded her husband that they must follow their plan again. This time, she locked the children in their room so that Hansel could not go out to gather pebbles. "I'll drop crumbs from a piece of dry bread we kept from breakfast," he told Gretel. "We can follow them just as we did the pebbles." Ah yes, food, what a good idea. Does he not know ants exist? Once again, the woodcutter and his wife left the children set off home, but when Hansel and Gretel tried to follow the trail of breadcrumbs, they found that the birds had eaten them all. Hungry and afraid, they stumbled through the forest, not knowing which way to turn. "Look!" cried Gretel suddenly, pointing through the walls of the gingerbread. Pointing through the trees, not the walls of the gingerbread. Man, I can't read. There was a strange little house with a roof and walls of gingerbread, and windows of sugar. The hungry. What is reading? Who is reading? Can you eat it? The hungry children ran towards it. "This is delicious," cried Hansel, with his mouth full, but a voice interrupted him. Why would you just eat someone's house? I just like to think, oh man, these fairy tales are so far-fetched sometimes. Who's that eating my house? It cackled, and then the 2 children jumped with fright. An old woman had come out of the house and was watching them with beady eyes. She was a witch who liked to eat little children. Okay. At first, she pretended to be kind. "Come inside. I will give you some good bread and soup," she said. When Hansel and Gretel had eaten their fill, she tucked them into bed. But the next morning, the witch locked Hansel in the shed and forced Gretel to work night and day cooking for him. "Soon he'll be fat enough for me to eat," chuckled the witch, rubbing her hands. Every day, the witch asked Hansel to poke his finger out between the bars to see if he was fat enough. But yet, clever Hansel poked out chicken bone instead. Hi, welcome, yay, welcome to the stream. Hi, how are you? Yee, hi. I got affiliate now, so I have a singular I have a singular emote, and I have point system now. Yay! I finally decided to not be lazy and fill out the form. Yee. Yee. Okay. Alright, I was gonna say, how do you mix up a child's finger with a chicken bone? I'm still much too scrawny, whined the witch. At last, the day came when the witch could wait no longer. She ordered Gretel to stoke up the fire under the oven. Just poke your head to see if it's hot enough yet, my dear, she said. But Gretel was afraid that the witch would push her in, so she pretended not to understand. Angrily, the woman pushed her aside and peered in herself. In a flash, the little girl gave the witch a big push. It's so cute! Thank you! I drew it myself. Gretel just committed a murder. Yee. Slamming the oven door shut, Gretel ran into the shed and set her brother free. Hansel and Gretel laughed with happiness as they ran from the witch's house, but they still did not know how to find their way home. Then a bird flying above them called to them. "I ate your breadcrumbs before," it chirped. "I will lead you home." So Hansel and Gretel followed the bird and came at last to the woodcutter's cottage. Their father wept with joy to see him. His wife had gone back to her own family, and not a day had passed that he had not searched in vain for his children. Man. She'd be fine in court. It's true. Because she's a child, and also because of self-defense. "We have one more surprise," smiled Hansel and Gretel, emptying their pockets. "We found gold and silvers in the witch's house. We shall never be poor again." So Hansel and Gretel and their father lived happily ever after, together in the little cottage. Alright, what's next? There's Rapunzel left. There's Jack and the Beanstalk. There's the gingerbread man. The Sleeping Beauty. There's the Emperor's New Clothes. Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's the Fisherman and his wife. There's the Frog Prince. I actually know the Frog Prince fairy tale. I read this one a lot, actually. There's the Princess in the Pink. There's the enormous turnip. There's Aladdin. And that's all for the fairy tales. There's so many. What's the time? It's 8:33 a.m. for me, and I actually do have things to do today. So I'll end it here. Thank you for joining my very Yee stream. Yee. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you had fun listening to me read. Love you. Love you too. Thank you. Thanks for the stream. Thank you for joining. Is there anyone that you'd like to raid? Let's see. Koni-chan is online. Meppy is also online. Okay. We're going to raid. We're gonna be raiding my friend Kota. He's a bear VTuber, and what is he doing currently? Actually, he is playing Kiwi. He's playing Kiwi or something. Alright, thank you all for joining my stream. I hope you had fun, because I had a lot of fun despite me being tired and low-key losing my mind. We raid! Yep, raid! Alright, I just need to remember how to spell his name. We don't have a raid message, so just do whatever you'd like to do. Thank you for joining in my stream. I'll see you all again next time. Bye bye.